So over the last couple days, I got to sit down and watch Twisted Metal, which was a show that I was definitely curious about. When it was announced, I was pretty surprised. I hadn't heard much about Twisted Metal in a long time. I remember how popular it was back on like PlayStation when I was a kid. I didn't play a ton of it when I was growing up, but I definitely played it here and there. And really, mostly what I remember from the game is, of course, you driving around cars with guns, and that there is Sweet Tooth in a freaking ice cream truck. Those are really the things I remember the most. But when I heard this announced, I was like, really, Peacock is definitely doing some interesting things right now, right? We've got the upcoming Continental show that, of course, is set in the world of John Wick. The trailer of it just dropped like yesterday, day before yesterday or something. The full trailer, and it looks pretty badass. And then, of course, we have the A24 co-production along with Peacock of the Friday the 13th TV series, which is supposed to be coming out next year. But with the writer's strike and all that, who knows? But fingers crossed for that one. But I'm keeping an eye on Peacock originals right now because the quality of these things can definitely give us a hint on what to look forward to in the future. And if this show and the trailer for the John Wick Continental show have anything to say about the future of Peacock, the Peacock future is currently pretty damn bright because I love this show. This was definitely better than people were expecting it to be, in my opinion. I went into this with mild expectations. I saw the trailer. Of course, they released that original little teaser clip of Anthony Mackie's character, John Doe. He is like fighting with Sweet Tooth in a casino. And there was some humor in that thong song by Cisco, and people were just not feeling that at all. And that's because without the context of the show, not that that scene really has context, but just because of the characters and how they're portrayed and the tone of the show and everything. Um, you have to remember, though, think about this. Like, the Twisted Metal games don't really have that much lore to them that I'm aware of, right? It's just like people who drive around cars, they might have bios or something. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If there is some lore, if there's some books or some kind of like bigger storyline or campaign mode or something in a Twisted Metal game that I'm unaware of, please let me know in the comments. But I'm not aware of anything. I think it's one of those games where you the like little bits of story that you may get in like a bio of a character or something is about the extent of the world, maybe. So you're really working from nothing. Back when like the Super Mario Brothers movie was made with John Leguizamo and whatnot, those are the kinds of movies. Hello, Bean. She's come in to say hi to everybody. Hi. You want to talk about Twisted Metal? She saw some of it. She might be able to give you the lowdown. And now my dog wants in on the review as well. Hello. So anyway, when these kinds of movies are made or shows or whatever, you are dealing with kind of a blank slate. But as I said, please correct me. If there's more lore to it, let me know. But I just went into this to have a good time, right? And Anthony Mackie, coming off of his success in the MCU as Falcon, I was that's not a character I really love all that much. And Anthony Mackie's done some things that I quite like, even if they're not like the best. Like Altered Carbon season 2 was definitely a downgrade from season 1. I don't think that's Anthony Mackie's fault per se, but it was just kind of like the first season was so rad. I was just like, whatever. Like on the second season, he was fine in it. The Striking Vipers episode of Black Mirror. I've seen him in a decent amount of stuff at this point, but this is easily my favorite he's ever, done, portrayed for a character. I really found him very charismatic and funny, and I felt like he shined here better than he has before. I really did like his character a lot. He's kind of that lovable idiot, right? Like a Jack Burton or something from Big Trouble in Little China. just the very outspoken, very high on life. No matter what's going on around him, he's always an optimist who has this kind of like plucky, fun spirit about him in the face of chaos and danger. And those characters can always be fun, and they usually work in ridiculous type, uh, movies or television series like this. And so, as far as the synopsis goes, the world has went to shit, and the major cities have created borders, these walls around them. Very, it reminds me of a few different things, whether it be like an Escape from New York, of course, Mortal Engines, except for the cities aren't moving in this. Just these kind of like big cities that are isolated from the rest of the world. They just put big walls around them and then kind of shut everyone else out. Uh, we have that going on in here, and then the world outside of those cities is just pure chaos. And John plays a milkman, and a milkman runs packages from city to city for a price. And he gets a package to deliver from New San Francisco to New Chicago, all the way across the country, basically. And this character that hires him for the job, the leader of New San Francisco, is played by none other than Neve Campbell from the Scream movies. Very interesting to see her here. Was not expecting to see her here. And she plays a character that you can kind of see coming from a mile away, but she's still fun in it. And so John goes out to deliver this package into the chaos, and out there he gets into some antics up against favorite characters from the video games, namely Sweet Tooth, who's voiced by Will Arnett. And Sweet Tooth is an absolute psychopath. Now, I do want to say my cat is just loving being in this video today. The Sweet Tooth is super fun, ridiculously over the top. And what I was trying to say before my cat completely distracted me, and you could tell I could lost my train of thought there for a second, what I was going to say is that this is really R-rated. Obviously cursing, F word, every 5 seconds, but there's a lot of blood. The gore, it's tame-ish, but it could be pretty violent for most normies. But for like hardcore horror fans who are like gore hounds, this doesn't have like a lot of gore to speak of, but there's still some. This is a very juvenile show for sure. You kind of have to have that juvenile humor to you in order to enjoy it. And that mileage will vary, pun intended, I suppose, on whether or not you find this show entertaining. It's just going to have to be somebody who's more juvenile in their action, their humor, because all these characters act like 13-year-olds, with machine guns and cars that can kill people. So we've got a character named Quiet. That's not her real name. Her real name is not divulged to us in the show, but John and her form this relationship, and at first she's very quiet, and this is very, very much an odd couple pairing. And throughout the show, of course, they find common ground and start to get along, very Last of Us or whatever, what have you, in this post-apocalyptic wasteland when he's trying to make a delivery. As I said, very Last of Us in that regard. But that is really where the heart of the show lies, and it's in those two characters. On whether or not you like this show, I think, is very dependent upon your liking of their relationship and those characters. Quiet, who is an actress, I don't know her name, and I don't know if I've seen her before. I think she's mostly like a voice actress, from some of the credits that I looked at. But I thought she was fantastic in this. Very charismatic, very funny. But she reminded me very heavily. In fact, almost so much that I felt like she should have even just played this role because it's so her. Is Kelly from Ash versus Evil Dead. They were so similar, so similar. They even had a similar look, very very similar. But I love this portrayal of this character. Super fun, back and forth. Um, and you've got some familiar cars that are set up in here, and some teases, big tease for the second season. And the last episode really gets into like the twisted metal cars going at each other stuff. There's some good nods to the game, stuff with Sweet Tooth that you're like, oh, how would they pull this off? They just do it because the show's insane and they're just like, screw it, let's just do this, right? But yeah, Peacock really put out a fun show here, and I really hope enough people watch it. It's really why I'm making this. I know this is primarily a horror review channel, but I want more eyes on this show because I think a lot of people dismissed this one and wrote it off. But if you like that kind of juvenile, high action, uh, you know, odd couple that starts to get along, lots of like really trashy jokes about sex and lots of dicks and references and stuff like that. As I said, it's very juvenile, but a ton of fun. Just a ton of fun. Lots of fun characters pop up throughout. Lots of fun antics. Some of it's ridiculously over the top and sometimes a little too much, and some jokes do fall flat for me personally. Obviously comedy's subjective, but I don't know, man. I just had such a good time with this, and because of the tease of season 2 and where it leaves off, it is so cliffhangery. I'm just like, oh man, I gots to have a season 2 to this. So if people don't watch it, obviously it's not going to get greenlit, and right now is a really dicey time for that because we are dealing with the writer's strike, and we saw what happened during COVID, right? Even shows like Glow on Netflix were in the production of their new season, their last season. If we're talking about Glow, season 4 of Glow was greenlit. They were in the midst of shooting it. Season 4, episode 1 was already in the can. I think they were already in the process of filming 2. COVID happened, and then they canceled the show outright. So with the writer's strike, I'm definitely sitting back going, oh man, if something doesn't do extremely well, it's not going to warrant them to pull the trigger on it once the writer's strike and the actor's strike and all that stuff comes to a conclusion. So I do fear for the future of this show. If it gets canceled, I will be majorly bummed because I do think this is a uber fun show and we deserve a second season, those of us who are super into it, like most of my friends are. I mean, everybody who has seen it that has commented on the Facebook post that I made was like, yeah man, I had a blast with this was super fun, way better than I expected. So good on them. Hey, yeah, just a really rad show. So definitely check it out. If you don't have Peacock, I definitely think Peacock's really cheap, so it's definitely worth picking up for at least a month to just kind of binge through it and maybe get rid of it. But with upcoming shows like The Continental, eventually Crystal Lake, I don't know, man. I look forward to the future of Peacock originals. There's this tease that we might get a Halloween TV series eventually, so they might have some big things coming in the future. But as of right now, Twisted Metals is a really, really good show, and probably not going to get the recognition that it deserves, and might get canceled. But I really hope that isn't the case, because I really enjoyed the fuck out of it. So, yeah, that's that. But there are some really cool characters in here as well that I didn't mention. Like we got the cop in here, played by, I always forget this guy's name, Thomas Hayden Church, right? That's his name, pretty sure. He, where I know him from is actually as Roach in Demon Knight, the Tales from the Crypt movie. That's how I know him. Most people know him from Spider-Man 3 as Sandman, but every time I see him, he's always gonna be the dude from Demon Knight to me. and he's been in plenty of other shit besides that. But he's really good in this as the like the lawman trying to bring the law back, but he's really just kind of like bringing a cult back. And I don't know, man. I just really, really got invested in the relationship between John and Quiet. That everything else was fun too, right? There was a lot of really fun things, really cool set pieces with a bunch of like, there's this like whole town made out of never stopping driving semi trucks that are all like together. That's really cool. Like there's a lot of really cool, fun, inventive ideas. Ridiculous, of course, but fun. And that's what you're trying to have with this show. This show's all about just having a good time, laughing, you know, throwing logic and all that stuff out the window. And there is some dramatic stuff in here too that works actually pretty well. There's a relationship between John and Evelyn. Evelyn is his car. And that's actually developed really well and ends on a very somber like note when some stuff happens. And I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of emotional right now. I didn't cry or anything, but I was like, wow, they actually did this really well. What much better than I would have expected in a show like this. And the dramatic bits, because there is a good amount of them. Quiet has a past with her brother, something that happens with her brother, and there's a lot of like, you know, they cover a lot of backstory with her brother, and that stuff is really, really sad and angering and well done. So this isn't just a completely silly show. It actually does have some dramatic bits that work. And because those work, you do get much more invested in these characters and continue to keep caring about what happens to them. And there were some definite surprises along the way. And when that last episode happens and you've got all the cars battling, you know, like a lot of the characters that have been developed and you care about what's going on all around them. So very cool scene, very cool show. Definitely not going to get talked about enough because people wrote it off after that clip was released. But man, I hope people can look past that. Give this show a shot. It's fun as hell. Freaking, you know, Sweet Tooth is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. His backstory and all that stuff, and he's fun. He's fun. Will Arnett does a really good job with him. He is so fucking crazy, and in the end, he does something that's like, wow, this is crazy, but it's a nod to the video game that was so cool, and I was like, I don't care how ridiculous this is, awesome shit. So high recommendation for action fans, action comedy, ridiculous juvenile fans. Check the shit out of this one. This is super cool. So let me know if you watch it. I just had to do a quick review. Not quick. This was way too long. But I probably reiterated myself like 5 times. I apologize. But I'm excited. And I tend to get a little redundant with my excitement. I just have to repeat myself like, oh my God, it's so fun. Oh my God, it's this. Right? But that's that. Let me know if you guys watch it. Obviously, it's streaming on Peacock. And yeah, go check it out.